This week on Cantina Chronicles, we bask in the glory of the Andor Season 2 trailer and discuss what its images may portend for the upcoming series. We discuss the next slate of movies revealed by Kathleen Kennedy in a recent interview. And we also dive back into the High Republic to do full reviews of the hard-hitting High Republic Adventures comic arcs, Echoes of Fear, and Dispatches from the Occlusion Zone. Let's go! Welcome to Cantina Chronicles, a weekly Cantina crawl across the Star Wars galaxy where we have robust conversations about all things Star Wars, including news, notes, and theories, synergizing all media. Grab a seat and let's talk Star Wars. Grant and Adam, how you doing, guys?
Good. Happy to be back. Got stuff to talk about.
We do. It was a busy Star Wars week this week.
A swell week, as Director Krennic would say.
Yeah. I think we're coming at you a little later, I guess. We've had a little bit of time off, and so a bunch of stuff has happened.
Yeah.
Andor Season 2 trailer in all its glory was released. And are you guys fired up about Andor Season 2?
This trailer. Like stunning photography. They were like, how about we just toss all the most stunning shots at the audience? And I'm sure there's even more things we have yet to see that are in the show that are just going to blow our minds. But just seeing like the planets, and I think you even see Yavin at the beginning, and just Cassian walking through the sort of docking yards there, and just the photography was awesome. There's some sort of revealing information in the trailer. I mean, we do see Bix and Brasso and Mon Mothma, and we're catching up with all our favorite characters, all our favorite rebels. But this is our rebellion. This is the beginning. It's super compelling.
Yeah, it looks, like you said, Grant, it looks amazing. Like the first season looked amazing, and just watching this preview though, it looks like a movie. And we'll talk about release schedule in a bit. I know Ben will want to talk a lot about that, but basically we are getting like 4 Star Wars movies. That if you look at the math, it's like we're getting 4 Star Wars movies. Right?
5. For the release schedule.
For Andor, because they're just doing
absolutely blew my mind. It's a first. Yeah, they're going to be releasing each 3 episode arc in over 4 weeks. So I get a feature film every week for 4 straight weeks.
Ben, how did you feel watching that, I think, 15-second clip of unmarked X-Wings taking off?
It's funny. That's
escorting that transport.
I was actually more captivated by the wedding scene. It was something about, it was like Mon Mothma dancing knocked me out of my slippers. I don't know why.
It was Chandrillin wedding, we can assume.
Yes, we can assume of her daughter to that criminal's son. And I did watch some like Easter eggy like videos on this to see what I missed, but it does appear like people have frozen frame on her and she looks like she's crying as she's dancing, which takes away from it, because I kind of I wanted to see an actually happy and exuberant Mon Mothma. I don't know. It was just an interesting thing to do, and that was the thing that grabbed me the most. But yes, definitely they're either Z95s or X-Wings. And like on Yavin,
she's hiding money for the rebellion. She's leading the rebellion. I mean, she's the leader essentially. Luthen Rael is sort of doing a lot of cloak and dagger clandestine activities, but I think Mon Mothma is funding maybe a larger wing of this nascent rebellion, which is probably these ships we're seeing. These pilots. I think we see men and women in like flight suits walking around.
I think my biggest takeaway is that, oh my gosh, I have to watch Rebels again, all of it. Because it coincides with the 4 Rebels seasons maybe not exactly, but Rebels was the same thing. It was a season a year leading up to the Battle of Yavin, and that's what this is going to be too. So it's like there's going to be a lot of crossover there. I've said it before. There's at some point they need to abscond with Mon Mothma And they showed one half of it in Rebels, and I'm wondering if they'll show the other half in this show. But I really want to see her getting spirited away to Yavin. Actually, it wasn't. Yeah, I think at first she was just on like ships, because in Rebels they had at least one other headquarters. Maybe she started up Yavin before the Rebels people were there. Like, I don't know. We'll see it. But like that's some of the stuff. Like when it's suddenly when she crosses over and she's like, all right, I'm a rebel now, and makes her announcement. That'll be cool. And I am kind of a sucker for crossovers, things we've seen in animation and then seeing live action or vice versa.
Yeah.
That still tickles me in a fun way.
Yeah. And you could totally dovetail in a way that you don't, like, Carly hasn't seen Rebels, and she wouldn't lose anything, but for the rest of us, you'd see that nice little synergy between those two things, which would be fun. Yeah. I guess I had a question. Like I knew, like intellectually, I knew, 4 arcs every year leading up to the beginning of Rogue One. And I guess the question I have, like, how close is it going to, is it going to, part of me wonders if it's going to really dovetail directly into Rogue One. Like if we're going to see Andor, like Cassian, get on that planet, where he starts.
The shot of him walking around on Yavin, I think, is maybe towards the end of the entire.
It's probably the last arc, is my guess. Yeah.
It looks like it's a fully operational rebel base.
It does.
Right at the end. I mean, Gilroy said it would directly abut the movie, like lead directly into Rogue One. Like,
I bet it will. Like, I mean, if you think about it, that's what he did with Rogue One, right? Like, you literally just turn that off and start Star Wars, because that's immediately where it picks up. So it'd be fun to do the same thing with this. Like, basically, you just have one giant thing where you watch all of Andor into Rogue One into A New Hope.
Yeah. And I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do a satisfying conclusion. Then he's going to be like, okay, I'm going to go to that space station now to go meet my contact, because and they could be talking about Galen Erso and Jyn Erso also. My only fear about this thing is that it's going to be too much lore, like shoehorning too much lore into this. Like, I should trust Gilroy at this point, but I mean, there could be Princess, like young Princess Leia in this. There's a lot of big characters that are directly that Andor is going to be.
You're not wrong, because there's precedent because of Rogue One that Princess Leia could be getting involved, and
Bail Antilles
would take a blockade runner out and try to intercept plans or something.
I would definitely expect to see. Yeah, I would definitely expect to see Space Jimmy Smits in this thing. Like, I think you gotta use it, and I feel like the other stuff, I don't know. Like, it always the scene with Leia at the very end of that, it feels very like. It doesn't feel very Gilroy. A lot of that's probably just like, you got to do this. Like, you got to like. I felt like it was like, kind of. Could you do this for us? Like, just this little thing for the fans, because it is.
It worked for me.
It did not work for me. I think it is so ham-fisted, and I cringe every time I see it. But it's fine. It's fine. It's just
it makes Leia like sneaking around with her blaster. Like all the more interesting.
I love the idea
up that like there's high stakes to her getting the plans and all this sort of.
Like, I don't mind seeing her. I just mind like just the Hope line. Just it's clunky to me. It's real clunky. It's like the same thing as it's like anytime they try to write the basically one-liner Vader in that movie. It's like anytime they write for like pre-existing original trilogy characters, it feels a little memey and forced. So sometimes like, I don't think he did that. Doesn't seem like a very Gilroy thing to do. So I'm just, a part of me is wondering how much he's going to push back with that stuff. And they seem to be just giving him, apart from like in season 1, he seemed to get like a lot of freedom. I think they're so in love with this show.
Yeah. There's
going to be very little, I don't want to say interference, because it's not really interference, but a lot less notes right to him with this, but
I would think they'd let him know.
Well, Krennic's getting involved now. I mean, we're seeing the Death Star, just yonder beyond the sort of his viewport, in a shot with Krennic there, and we see Star Destroyers and TIE fighters, and like the Empire is just huge at this state in the galaxy, in the galactic history.
Yeah.
And so it's just, that's what I think the commentary is so interesting, because it's like, this is when the Empire is just like this immeasurable force that's just oppressing everyone.
Yeah.
And it kind of captures that in the trailer. And like, why is Krennic now cracking down on whatever maybe this rebel contingent is? Like, what has Krennic found out? Why is he even involved? Or is this simply like he's connected to the ISB and they're finding out that parts are missing with the Death Star plans?
Right.
He's who is learning about, our sourcing for Death Star materials,
Yeah, I mean, we did learn that like in the prison they were building parts of the Death Star, right? Like some shielding or
yes.
So it is tangential.
That was, I think, the after credits like sting like we got at the end of the last episode, the final episode.
Yeah.
It was genius. Right. It was actually the most genius after credits scene I've ever seen.
Yeah, I love that.
Ever, in any genre movie.
Yeah,
I just and TV. Exactly, and just you're right. Like just the height of the Empire in this era. It's fascinating. Like so many OT or original stormtroopers, and I just love it. Love seeing original stormtroopers. Such a great design. I hate them. Them.
The amber waves of grain, where it's just like
that's got to be Lothal, right?
Ooh.
I think Lothal is going to be a big part of this.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Like we're going to get more Rebels content, like after Ahsoka was Rebel season 5. I think we're going to get a bunch of it in here. I mean, we could see Hera Syndulla in there.
I think you might get the Ferrix like moment on a galactic scale, where it's like some atrocity happens, where then the galaxy revolts and fight the Empire, is said across the galaxy, maybe. I think you need that moment in the second season,
which would mirror
a macro moment.
I want that energy from the first season, where it's like, this is how rebellions form, and that'd probably be a lot in the first arc. That's what I mean. It's like all this lore and all these characters are great. K2SO is going to be amazing.
K2
Tuddyk, going off is going to be wild, but like it's like the best parts of Andor season 1 were just like the random conversations between two people, and I don't know. So
Skeen,
Skeen. That's totally.
I was just thinking about
Mulchi. Is that his name?
Mulchi. Yep. I was just thinking about like the rebels that we see in season 1 don't seem that organized, right? Like you don't like they're very ragtaggy, and by the time we meet them in A New Hope, they're really organized, right? And so I think that's what we're going to see is a lot of that, and I think you need that galaxy-wide moment that catalyzes people to stand up, right? So I think we're going to see something like that, and it's going to echo his mom's or his adopted mom's speech, right?
That's what I mean. Like, how do you even get a moment like that? Like, again, that was so powerful.
I don't know.
Mom's funeral, that was like, wow, such a banger.
I mean, maybe part of it with Cassian and formal wear. Like,
with a mullet?
About the organization.
He looks dope.
Empire, he becomes like a full spy, like essentially. We're going to see the birth of like the rebellion spy network, essentially.
Yeah, and do they televise something over the HoloNet? Right? Do they release something that the Empire's trying?
Yeah, how does a counter spy program work against the Empire? Like that is fascinating material.
There's a lot of pieces.
Also, we should be taking notes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be like, this, information, propaganda.
Yeah.
And definitely like, when Mon Mothma leaves the Senate to join the rebellion, she does send out a holo transmission. So like I'd love to see her giving that speech. But oh man, so it's going to be great. How'd you feel about the music, Grant? So this song,
like is, the only ding I'd give the trailer was the music. It felt a little like I didn't really need like the country folk rock sort of like music to go with the to explicitly tell me the revolution is starting. I could have just done something more subtle, but I get it. It's the most 4-quadrant approach to releasing a prestige TV series that I'm already in, I'm already in the ecosystem, so they have me already.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's just a means to get as many people as they can. And it's fine. It works. It works for the trailer, but I was surprised. I was like, "Is this? Do I have my audio? Is there an ad playing?"
That's what I thought too. Dave, I had the same exact thought. I thought, I stopped for a second to make sure, I didn't have another window open playing something.
But the tambourine does get me hype. The tambourine, when the tambourine sets in, I'm like, okay, we're walking into the saloon.
So that song was a protest song that was released during one of the Bush administrations, and I don't even know which one. I don't know if it was protesting the war or if it was protesting George Bush, but it was sort of like a lost protest song that happened in the 90s.
It sounded vaguely familiar, but I
didn't recognize the artist. It was like George Casey.
Yeah, no,
it's actually Steve Earle. I think I looked it up. I was like, "Who is this?"
Earle. Okay, yeah.
It sounded like a cover of a bad Tom Petty song to me, but I was just like,
yeah, he looked like off-brand Neil Young.
Yeah, it sounds like that. But Carly was funny because Carly doesn't like previews, but it was on last night during the Oscars. They showed it, and so I'm like, "Do you want me to skip it?" She's like, "No, I'll watch it." And she's like, "That looks great." She's like, "What was that song? Like, what was going on?" And I'm like, and they're like, "Well, so my thought is they're trying to do the same thing they did with Skeleton Crew. It worked for Skeleton Crew, right?" She's like, "Yeah, but that song was good."
It's
and
true.
I'm like,
that's true.
Good. That's true. Yeah. But they're trying to do that.
Yeah. Still, when they hit the dancing scene and everyone.
No, you got to hit the Taylor Sheridan universe. You got to hit the Landman sort of Yellowstone people. You got to kind of rope them in with little, country rock.
Yeah. Hey, if it works, get them in.
Very cynical, but okay. I mean, ultimately, were you not hyped?
I'm not trying to be cynical. Yeah. I was just literally throwing that out there. I was just hoping it would stick.
Yeah. No, you're right. You are right. Yes, you are right. But were you not hyped by the end of it? Despite the music, were you not?
I was hyped because the quotes, the blurbs that kept popping up were exactly my thoughts. I was like, yes, riveting, action, unparalleled, compelling. I was like, yes. I was like,
and also from legitimate sources. One of my pet peeves is when I watch previews. I'm like, I always got to pause and be like, who said that? Oh, user 8974 on Reddit. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But this is actually legit sources.
Okay,
so
good.
I'm like, it's good.
I always scrutinize that too. I'm like, well, let's just see here.
Yeah. Well, especially when the X-Wings were taken off and it just stayed on that shot and it was just tilted. The camera just tilted up and I was like, oh, we're just going to sit on. Yep. And they're going to take off. And okay. I just needed that was incredible. That was my favorite sequence, I think, of the entire trailer. It was just some simple sequence of 4 X-Wings taking off.
Oh, I know. It was beautiful. It's also it seems like, I mean, again, it's only a preview for 12 episodes, but definitely more action packed, it seems like, than the first season. There was a lot of action in the first season, but there's a lot going on in this episode. And I'm psyched to see more Cyril. I'm just so fascinated to see what that guy's end is in his story. He's so weird.
His mom too, she's all decked out. It looks like Cyril's coming up in the world. Maybe he might even be part of the ISB, who knows, because he saved Deidre Mira, who was she's amazing, I want more. There's not enough room, there's not enough time for all these characters to get their moment in the sun. It's just too many great characters now. But I'm sure. I hope I'm wrong.
And Dedra Mira is also kind of a fascinating character that I feel like we haven't even seen the full arc of that character.
Right.
Yeah.
It's odd to have sympathy and kind of root for an Imperial.
I'm not rooting for them. I just want to see their arc.
For her, they put her in such an interesting situation where she's clearly the smartest person in the room, and so it's weird because I'm like, wait, no, you're bad. But I'm like,
she's trying to find rebel cells and extinguish them. Yeah, but it's bad. Yeah, it's the work she's doing bad, but she's also has all these obstacles, and I think I feel like even her little assistant I worry about. I'm like, Dedra Miro
he's a competitor,
the next part of Gaz, basically. I hope she gets the next head of the ISB.
Yeah,
I hope she gets the big promotion.
And as soon as she gets promoted, the Death Star blows up.
Right. Yeah, she's day one on the job.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I want to see Andor end, but it won't. It technically can't. But
no, it can't. We're just forming the rebellion. But the whole time, Dedra is going to be like, "I told you. I told everyone." Then maybe that's what leads to her promotion. I just think her story with Cyril, though, the fact that she is just disrespected by every man, and she only deals with men all the time. She has no love interests. Even her assistant is trying to usurp her. And like one crazy guy is just like, I worship the ground you walk on. You're awesome at what you do. I just want to be part of it. I will serve. And she falls for him. And it's like, she's smart enough to know, like her character is smart enough to know that's a total mistake. And I think that then hilarity will ensue. And it'll be interesting.
No, I agree. The thing that this thing it's got me so excited just to rewatch season 1 more than anything. Like, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to rewatch season 1.
Jenny asked, she's like, can we rewatch that? Because like, I just don't remember. I was like,
same with Carly. It's like
head shakes off body. No. You know what I kind of want? I kind of want Cassian in the room where there's the medal ceremony occurs, but like it's empty, and it's just this moment for fans where it's like he doesn't get the medal, but like he's contemplative in that beautiful space. I'd be like, oh my god! Like, I don't know. To me, that's because that room is gorgeous. That's like my favorite.
Was it in the trailer? Room is my memory deceiving me?
Was that not in the trailer?
No, just the Yavin itself, but like. Yeah, I just would love that. It's such a great little unsung hero moment, right? People that don't get the medals, right?
Luthen Rail. I mean, like we saw him in the trailer, so Luthen's still there. But it's like, what role is he going to play now? Is he still going to liaise through all the different factions?
He is going to get caught and know he has to die saying nothing, and then just die and just go off out like a whisper.
We see him as long as we see K2SO, right? Like it is just
you see
it is just him looking up. He's cooking and he's looking up. Like that's all we see, I believe, of him in this. So that leads me to believe, like, I don't know. He might go down Dedra.
Like, doesn't Dedra have to get a W somehow in the second season?
Yeah, that might be where that's a good.
Dedra needs a W because she is an expert tracker, and we haven't seen her like really track anything down besides. I think killing that one
pieces,
Krieger. I think she went after Anton Krieger or whatever.
Right. She connected the dots to like let everyone know that like this was going to happen, and then her people got the intel. And actually, no, she didn't get the intel, but she was the one that connected the dots between all the cells. And I mean, that's huge. Yeah. All right, man. This is going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about Andor so much.
It's going to be exciting.
Cannot wait.
Yeah, there's great stuff in there. So that's sweet. We also got a really weird pair of proclamations. We heard that Kathleen Kennedy was moving on this year, and then she did a response interview on Deadline saying no, she's not, but she could.
Like
she said, it was funny because I was like, oh, is this happening? And then it was like she immediately came out with an interview. Which is great. We're doing this podcast sort of a week after all these stories were dropped because she then came out and gave an interview where she said, "No, I'm not retiring." But I think we're in talks and we're talking about me retiring. And I was like, wait. It's like, wait a second.
So she said she was going to make movies until she died. But then she said we are preparing for a transition, which that could mean she could transfer up into Disney or something else or a different role or something. And someone, so she could even be. She's like, I'll always be a mentor. Like,
well, could she take the chief executive role like after Iger? Could she basically move up to where Iger is, and then
that'd be amazing if she
goes there.
I just took over Disney,
and then they'll probably put Filoni or Favreau in the or Carrie Beck or whoever big producers at Lucasfilm will probably put them at the president. Her seat,
like her seat.
That'd be great because that'd be great for Disney. I think that'd be a new golden age for Disney. Honestly, Kathleen Kennedy at the top would be of that hierarchy, and still producing films. Almost like I feel like greenlighting the films essentially, like understanding on an even bigger level how to produce lots of films that are across your fantasy genre, your animation, your Star Wars, your essentially everything, which is, I think she could do that because she understands the creativity of all those projects and the talent essentially. So like,
that Deadline article was good because it went in deep on her with some stats on her resume. And it's amazing. The one that like slapped me in the face was 125 Oscar nominations, the movies that she's worked on. And they won 50 or something, or 25 something, still a lot, but it's just like, I mean, Back to the Future, like she's been working like I don't know anyone that would be more qualified for her to run
all of Disney essentially.
All of Disney. Yeah. Like I don't know anyone that has
there's no one more qualified to creative, because Disney is a creative company, essentially.
Because she's a producer and she's a creative at the same time. And it's like, really, that's what I was thinking, was like her replacement may be like a Carrie Beck or just like some no-name administrator that we've never heard of, because a lot of it's just getting money into the projects and communicating with like the board of directors at Disney. And like, I don't think of it as a creative position, but she happens to be a really creative producer that's done a lot of work on movies. So, on amazing movies, some of the best movies of all time. So, I don't know. It's a really unique position. I don't really know who would slide in there. I mean, she sounded like they were already working on.
So that was the thing I got from this. My impression is that she is going to not retire. She's going to leave this position towards the end of the year. It just seemed like that. The response article kind of seemed like that. And what she was telling everyone is, I'm not being forced out. I'm not retiring. This is part of a natural progression of anything that happens. And we have people picked out and we know exactly what's going to happen when this is over. And my guess is that she handpicked them. Right. So it just feels very like, this is not what every annoying fanboy on the internet's been asking for. Right. Yes, why would you fire someone who's created a successful franchise, right? Like, it's just so silly. But then she talked about the fact that even though she might be going on to do other things, she's involved in producing at least 2 or 3 Star Wars movies, which I guess leads to the next thing that you want to talk about, Ben, of kind of like the release schedule she talked a bit about.
I just wanted to speak to the timing because she was so intentionally vague. I would not put money on this year. Like the interviewer said, "Are you going to be here for the next 10 years?" She's like, "Maybe, I don't know." Yeah. And then he closed the interview with like, "Are you going to finish out the year? Are you going to retire this year?" And she said, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And because I just, to me, that means like she's moving at her own pace, and I don't think there's any. I don't think
there's a specific plan in place.
Got picked up. But to me, I guess it wouldn't surprise me if it was. It would surprise me if it was this year. Honestly,
now she said that she's producing the Mando and Grogu movie, and then the Sean Levy movie. But did she mention the Rey movie at all? Like in that interview, I found that kind of. I feel like maybe that is the impetus to then pass the torch. This is a new trilogy. This is either Rey or this is either whatever. James Mangold can invent. That's kind of the prehistory. Actually, it's one of the other, and it's going to be a trilogy, and it's going to need a new sort of person at the top.
It's a natural breaking point.
Yeah, it's a perfect breaking point for someone new to come in and do their saga, essentially.
Well, she said it was Simon Kinberg's trilogy. Are we talking about the same thing?
No, I'm just talking about the Deadline article in terms of the Rey film, because I know that was important to Kathleen Kennedy. I'm just talking about like sort of like throughout the years, like the reporting that we've been getting on the projects at Lucasfilm. Kinberg, I think, was recent news, right? Within the last 3 months, we got news that Simon Kinberg was getting a trilogy of films.
Yeah.
I'm talking more about like just sort of what Kathleen Kennedy has sort of been pushing along in the feature category. It's been the Rey film, right? Like the Rey film has been announced a couple times, right? At major events.
What seems to be the one?
The quote was like, "I'm working on the Mandalorian movie and the Levy movie," and then and I think there was a question about timeline, and she's like, "Yeah," and then the Simon Kinberg trilogy is in production, and like that will be after that. But I don't think she mentioned the Rey movie at all, which is, I have to believe it's still happening. And actually, I think it's been in the news that they're going to start shooting in 2027, or at least they're planning that. So it got pushed a year.
Again. Yeah. I'm wondering if they're going to go back to the old model of like, so there's going to be the Grogu movie or the Mandalorian Grogu, then the standalone Sean Levy film, and then you start a trilogy, and then every other year you intersperse these standalone films. Like we were told that was going to happen, right? So you do kind of fit it in there, and then Rey might be the 4th movie out, right? Possibly from this thing. I just don't know. Yeah,
no, but that was what was kind of distressing to me, because I mean, we know the Rey movie's happening. Yeah, we know the Levy movie's happening, and now I I forgot about the Kinberg trilogy.
Me too.
I was like, sure, you're making a trilogy, but
I didn't buy it. But yeah.
So in this interview, Kathleen says all 5 of those movies are going to take place after The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, that's the wild.
That
thing.
is wild.
Yeah.
It's like 10 to 20 years after The Rise of Skywalker.
I'm like,
she said the Levy movie was 5 to 6 years after.
Yeah.
Yeah. She named I was like, oh wow. Like, so this is.
And she said the Kinberg trilogy will be entirely new. She's like, you might get some legacy characters, a couple legacy characters.
See, I think you could do a far flung future sort of like main timeline story where it's like Chewbacca is like completely gray and C-3PO is like a bucket. You could still like bring everyone back, right? But they're like the most raw shell of what they were, like it's
I wonder. So one of the biggest issues with Star Wars for casual fandom is the timeline. Is like, where does this movie now slot in? Right? Like,
which movie?
Any movie. Just name a movie. Where does it fit in? Why is there? Do you remember like the Rogue One? I thought, why is there another Death Star? We just blew up. Like people are, and I know it's silly.
Yeah.
People get super. I mean, we even get confused about timeline stuff on this thing. I'm wondering if this is like the new start of like their new thing is like, nope, we're gonna tell. I don't specifically like this, but we're gonna tell stories in a very specific timeline, and those movies are going to come out similar to Marvel movies, pushing a timeline forward, even if they're separate. Like you have a trilogy, you have a standalone, but they're all telling this integrated story or something. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I just, and Grant and I talked about this offline, but it's like, I love Daisy Ridley so much, and I selfishly want her for more than a movie. Like I kind of wish she was in that trilogy and a big part of that trilogy. But I mean, also it's just, I was really kind of taken aback by the fact that like, the Sean Levy movie would be first. It sounded like it was going to come out before the Rey movie, but
I think it is. I think it's going to be the second one. Yeah, it seems to be fast track.
Yeah, so that is kind of jarring news, honestly, as a fan base. I don't care particularly. I'm just happy to get whatever we get from the official, company and creatives that I love and admire. But it's like, I think we were gearing up for like these pretty definitive like mystical Jedi films. Like we had the New Jedi Order film, and then we had the mangled like Prime Jedi film. That was kind of what we were gearing up for. And then now it's like we're getting the Sean Levy movie. It's very mysterious. It's very under wraps as to what the movie is about. We have no idea what this film is about, but it's apparently a script that was apparently he wrote a script that has just captivated Kathleen Kennedy and captivated the creatives at Lucasfilm. And so it's got to be a good script. It's going to occur before we get a Rey story, but take place after the Rise of Skywalker. It's kind of amazing. This is going to be a sort of like lead-in, possibly.
It's going to be the halfway
the Rey universe, right? Like,
now that I'm thinking about it, that could be really cool because they can sort of set the board, the chessboard, and like let you know like what the galaxy feels like now. And then when we get Rey, we don't need to establish all that stuff, as much. And we can really get into the lore with Rey and do the mystical stuff. Like that would be my dream. Anyways.
I agree. No, I was going to say, I think part of me feels like, and this is a little like inside baseball or like kind of whatever, but I feel like right now, movies are weird. Everyone's trying to figure out like what's going to work, what's not going to work. I mean, movies aren't weird, but like everyone's freaking out that like
no, but you can spend $6 million on a movie and win
and then you can make a giant blockbuster movie and you barely break even on it, right? And so I think the reason they're front loading the Mandalorian Grogu and the Sean Levy is that Mandalorian Grogu is based on a proven property that people love, and then you're just like it's just going to be like bombastic, and then Sean Levy, love or hate him, he's not going to do mysticism. He does a good, solid, funny action film, and that's going to get butts in the seat. I think that's their thought.
Right. Ryan Reynolds is attached to it, right?
Ryan Gosling. But like I think that's the thought is like you do something.
But that is, I do worry about that though. I do worry about Deadpool and Wolverine and Free Guy and that sort of tone and how I don't understand how those are qualifiers for Star Wars. It's in terms of my brain and how I work. Like yes, real steel and he's made some poignant sort of like adventure films, like well-rounded, like Night at the Museum, like well-rounded adventure films.
I think he's gonna.
And The Internship is genius. Don't get me wrong. The Internship is absolutely genius.
Yeah,
but
and people can surprise you, right? Like he just may have a long surprise you. And you know what?
If it's I think he's gonna
love this thing.
Well, remember when we talked about the smuggler being the missing element of sort of Star Wars? Like if Sean Levy is the answer to that missing element that we were talking about, I think just like a couple months ago, we were just like, this is sort of like the secret sauce is like Han Solo. Like that is the secret sauce. And like to do a trilogy without Han Solo,
right? It would be
unthinkable.
But also, you are introducing, because the other thing is you are introducing a Han Solo type into the galaxy, and
that's right. So you get Ryan Gosling with Rey,
right. You have your smuggler now part of the known universe, right?
Yeah.
Or galaxy.
Okay, all right.
I don't know. It could be great.
A Jabba, a sort of Jabba of that time period, right? Like, maybe this character's in deep with another sort of crime boss of some kind.
Yeah, whoever the crime bosses are, they get introduced some new ones. They're kind of due.
Yeah, totally new crime bosses, right?
Yeah, because apart from like the Spice Resoners of Kijimi, we didn't get really any underworld stuff in the sequel trilogy, right? Like not really.
No, it just kind of
Kanji Club.
Oh yeah, that's true. We got a really good 15-minute thing in the middle. I forgot. Guavian Death Squad. Yeah, I stand corrected. Those things are brilliant. I remember thinking that all the time.
Those names are awesome.
Yeah.
Kanji Club.
You're right, and now I know why they just like shoehorn those like things. I'm like, what's
notoriously that's the scene where Adam and I are both asleep, where we wake up after basically they land on Takodana.
Yep, pretty much. Campfire tells me sleepy time.
Rathtar's is night.
Yeah,
I'm weeping through that. I'm still crying through that Rathtar's after the like Chewie we're home.
Chewie we're home is that's the good night.
Yeah,
that's a good night.
Yeah, I'm tucked in now. I'm ready to sleep. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, Rathtar's they fly now.
It's good. It's all good stuff in there.
Yeah. No, I would love
Han being Han. Han just dadding around in a freighter. What more can you want?
Buttering around in his giant garage.
Chewie, oh man,
yeah,
just Chewie.
We need more Chewie too. I mean, yeah. So there's a lot of pieces there. I'm bullish on Ryan Gosling. I think he'll be good. And then that character.
I love that you're writing for this Sean Levy movie, Ben. I'm like worried about it, and Adam is. I don't know. Adam's.
I'm Goldilocks. I'm always Goldilocks.
He's Goldilocks.
I'm right in the middle. I'm just like I don't know. Yeah. I'm not excited, but hey, I'm not going to count them out. Like we'll see.
Listen, I think they're on a run. I think they're on to something now with Star Wars. I just feel like they're gonna sort of unlock the like magic box soon and be like, oh, now we know how to make a Star Wars without George involved. Like we can figure out the special sauce. Like they're really close. They have all the things in the movies, but they got to get the vibe right. And
they need to do something that's not predicated on a past narrative.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So the sequels suffered from this like where you are based on us commenting on the original story that you all know with the characters.
And no one wants to see it again. I think
no one wants that to happen again. So what you have to do with a new trilogy or a new story in Star Wars is set a new board, set all the pieces. Yeah. Those characters might have relationships already, but like we don't know about those relationships.
Yeah.
We don't know who these people are.
I think it'll make it easier on the writers. They'll be able to sort of have some longitude, some latitude to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Agreed. Should we move on to comics?
Sure.
I could talk about this for the rest of the night, actually.
We could talk about movies and release schedules.
And like what you just gave us 5 movies to think about. Like not just like one Rey movie where we're like, oh, it could set up blah blah blah. It's like no, now there's another movie and then another trilogy. So chew on that.
Right.
Wild. All right. So actually we're gonna go back to the High Republic. I really loved our conversation last week about those things, though we missed you dearly, Grant.
Those issues were fantastic, and I'm just lucky to be along on this ride, and I'm glad that you guys covered those issues because then I read all those issues and then I read these issues and I was like, they all are synergistic, and I've just been living in this heaven of sort of like all the synergies of all the stories sort of working together, and I think that's something to commend the authors for the writers, Daniel Jose Alder, George Mann, Kevin Scott,
Charles Soule, Ireland,
just everyone's just, I don't know, it's just firing on all cylinders. So
yeah, same, man. I went to for this pod, I need to know the names of everyone. So I just wrote down the planets and the people.
Thank you.
And
that's all you really need, honestly, when you talk about Star Wars. Just write that stuff down, and then everything else will come to you.
And then it just makes sense, because then I could go back through and I sort of grouped them by cadre, teams working together, and I was able to look back and be like, oh yeah, it was that team. And and this is just High Republic Adventures. This is not. So Marvel Comics. This is the novels. This is the sub novels. This is just the adventures, and there's 50 characters.
It's wild.
And they do connect a little bit with the other things, and that's what's really fun when you get the crossovers. But it's so many, and but yeah, I actually
we've been saying this for years too. It's obviously we cover all the other incredible sort of Star Wars comics, Main Run and Bounty Hunters and Darth Vader and Dr. Aphra. We cover everything and all the High Republic stuff. But I think we've been saying for a couple of years now that High Republic Adventures, especially it maybe seems like it's the young kids or the sort of young readers sort of version of the Star Wars comic. It's not. It has maps. It has detailed maps if you're reading the High Republic books and you kind of want to know where the occlusion zone is and where planets lie. It has incredible lightsaber construction diagrams. I'm thinking a year back, and now in these comics, the storytelling is some of the best I think we've had visually for High Republic stories. You get a complete Dark Lord story in one of these comics we're about to review. You get there's just incredible visuals. The art is now I opened one of these issues and I don't know if the artist changed.
It's an acid
from
trip.
issue 1 to issue 2, but I basically almost dropped the comic. I was like, this is wow. This is feels like this is the wrong comic. What's going on here? But it was glorious, and I wish I had those artists on hand, but they just give them a shout out. But we'll do a shout out in the show notes for artists that we miss on the show.
Yeah, for sure. I've said this a lot before, so I'll keep it brief, but I do argue that the young adult novels and young adult comics, to me, get the closest to the feel of Star Wars. And that's because Star Wars is meant for not meant for, but it's written at that level, right? Even the original trilogy and stuff like that. And I feel like it just hews on that. I mean, I love them all. It's not.
That's why the Phantom Menace remains the sort of touchstone for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hit me at that young adult age, and it's
all of us, right? All of us got. Everyone who loves Star Wars got it because they got it when they were a kid, right? It hooked us. But
it feels like the High Republic Adventures almost turned into the side quest stories. But that's not really true, because it's not like the Marvel High Republic comic is any more pertinent to the storyline than anything else. And actually the two arcs we just read that we're going to cover today are the two most important arcs of comics in the High Republic. They finally have massive breakthroughs, and I'm so wild because these are offshoots of an offshoot comic, and it's this is where they're going to tell us that they
there's giant MacGuffin work happening in these comics that might play into the novels.
It has to play into the novels. The MacGuffin they get is huge. It's going to be a game changer with the Nameless. It's wild. And that's the same thing. I could not believe when I was reading this for the first time that I got to the end of, and we'll talk about it. I got to the end.
There's no way he's going to get that thing.
Right, no. And then they have it. The Jedi's have it
on the cover of the 4th issue, and I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Lose it. It's going to.
Adam taught me that's not going to happen.
Adam said when we see things like comic covers,
comic covers lie.
Happen.
Comic covers lie.
Yeah. So these have been pretty truthful. Podcast. I feel like they've gotten a little better as of late.
Apparently. Why don't we start with Echoes of Fear? Do we want to?
Echoes of Fear.
Yeah.
And so this is basically Wreath, Silas, and Amadeo Mozart.
Yep.
Actually, you have to check that.
Amadeo Azazio.
Azazio, right?
It's all right.
Those are my boys. Those are who I would be if I was a Jedi.
They're just in the archives.
In the archives
all day. Which, as a Jedi, would you not be in there for hours looking at the tales of other Jedi and sort of what they've discovered throughout the galaxy?
So much cooler than Google.
I think it's page
So
3,
cool.
and they're just like looking at the shelf of holocrons, and I'm like, I just want to be there. It
looks like 2001 too. It's like shutting down
Yeah.
HAL. It's like this incredible bank of just like hundreds and hundreds of holo data pads and the holo, decks.
Quick side note: it must be maddening to be there because every file is an audio visual file. So can you imagine being in there with 70 other people listening to holocrons? I looked at that. I'm like, that is wild.
That's the SNL bit.
You're not even like wearing like
Done.
headphones. And there's a moment that they're speaking, and one of the other one looks at me and goes, shh. I'm like, no one's hearing you. No one's hearing you. They're all listening to all of like the 70 other audio files playing right now.
Everyone's listening to a Jedi Master Jedi splain like what they're doing on some random Outer Rim planet.
Yeah. They're all having
more Jedi splaining in my so they're trying to find the Rod of Ages.
Yes.
So this is the third rod. We've seen 2 of them used in both phase 1, 2, and 3, all phase 1, 2, and 3 by the Path of the Open Hand. With I forget her name, and then ultimately with Marchion Rowe. Marta Rowe.
Marta. There you go.
Marta Rowe.
Yeah, and they have.
Oh no, actually the mother, right? I forget her real name, but the mother.
Right, the mother. Yeah. I definitely got to go back and reread phase 2. I read them all. I just
as in Wells in there.
Pretty cool phase.
It took me so long to settle into what was going on that I feel like I just need to go back.
My memory of phase 2 is just Kevmo. They just have Kevmo.
Kevmo, yeah.
It's all I remember is Kevmo and his ominous fate.
Yeah. Right. So anyways, so the staffs are used. They have echo stones in them, which allow, amongst other things, because the debate is whether they were created to control the nameless or that just happens to be another thing they can do.
Rethinks that's just like a side skill
or side skill.
Wait, we guys are missing like this all comes from the ancient civilization, the Ptolemites, basically.
The Ptolemites
who made the echo stones and the rods and placed them in the rods to control the nameless and control reality and the Force and stuff like that.
We learned that in was it Tears of the Nameless?
Yes, the Ptolemites, I think.
About the Ptolemites. And this was same guy. Rhys Silas was on the trail there, so we're picking it up now, and he's trying to figure this out. But he's got a couple good holocrons, man, that like put him in the right area. And the first one was super fun. He's like, check it out. There's this ancient Sith Lord about it.
Oh yeah, Darth Revi. I said Revi.
The Bold.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think Revi.
I called him Darth Ravi the Bold. But
Revi the Bold. Better.
I like Revi better, but I was saying Ravi too. But it's got to be Revi. Now that I think about it, because Darth Ravi doesn't sound very intimidating.
No, it doesn't. I was trying to make it sound intimidating.
You did.
You did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the art. Can we talk about the art and just him going to this planet? It's like this Ptolemite safe world or whatever. They locked the power away. Like the Echo Stone was like locked away underneath like these sort of like puzzle box metal plating.
Oh, you're talking about the dead moon of Gothal.
Yeah, the dead moon of Gothal.
And there's like it's like a puzzle box the size of a moon or
of the Death Star
around the Death Star. Yeah, it's wild.
And then he had to he was just trying to Qui-Gon Jinn in there by just like stabbing stuff with a lightsaber and just raging out. And he eventually did get to the center and then just gets consumed by the power, the Echo Stone. And it's a whole sort of cautionary tale about, power overwhelming oneself. And
Though I wonder, like with these stories, like, is that really what happened, or did Darth Ravi like transcend?
Yeah, did he get the Echo Stone and just become unstoppable? Yeah,
and like he's still at large somewhere. I mean, I don't know. It did seem like a child's tale, but the whole point of it was like he's like, "Yo, but they were talking about Echo Stones that long ago."
So long ago, That's what I love about this. I love the wraparound stories. It doesn't feel like just excuses to tell these cool stories. Like it seems like George Mann did such a good job of like actually connecting all these dots and why this research would work the way it did. And I mean, I'm a research nerd in real life, so I was really appreciating this, and I like that a lot. That they're like, no, the point is, like you said, the point is not that if this is real or not doesn't matter. It's the fact that they're talking about it. It's that matters.
Yep. And so
that's kind of what Amadeo says at the end, right? He's kind of like, this is just another like Sith tale. Let's just like put this whole fun away.
He's like, this sounds like something that people would tell, when we were children, younglings, they would tell us bedtime stories or whatever.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like there's a lot of like dark side bad stories and
it seems like there's like a lot of those holocrons are like evil Darth Lord, like learn from this.
Yeah, it did have that sort of the more you know sort of.
It did have that vibe.
Like Stingo, but like, hey, great story and some of the best art I've ever seen.
Yeah, the art was awesome.
Yeah,
wouldn't mind getting some posters with that art
right
blown up.
So all right, in the second issue, we get the story of Barnabas Vim leaving a recording to his Padawan Vix Phonic. And he heads to the planet Ancord and meets up with old friend Turok Baran on the planet Petrus Major.
Thank you, Ben.
Wow, Ben. Okay, can we just like a standing ovation right now? Can we cue like a standing ovation?
I took notes, guys.
Sound sample.
I did it for you.
Well done.
Cue the sample. Applause.
But yeah, so like he finds his buddy is using an Echo Stone for good, right? He's like, this is the not the Sith version, this is the Jedi version, but still it's consuming him. And he needs
very One Ring energy in this.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yep. But
that's fascinating. But I love Barnabas Vim. I think he's one of my favorite characters that we've been introduced to. Sort of a Pathfinder, right? He's like out there exploring.
Yeah,
going to find the Echo Stone specifically.
Yep. And I think Turok Boran was he was, I forget what they're called, but when you sort of freelance for a while, you take a sabbatical as a Jedi. Like
sure, he's kind of like living on the planet as a renegade or rogue sort of.
Yeah,
Jedi.
but it's what do they call them? Not Discovery Jedi. They're like
Wayseekers.
Wayseeker Jedi. He's a Wayseeker. Yeah. But he was like really dug in on this planet and like the power of the stone. He's like, I'm doing all these awesome things. And like they created a giant like wave break out of using the Force. And I mean, ultimately he gave up the stone and Barnabas took it. We just don't know where he took it. Oh, well,
Barnabas got lost in like a weird like space gum.
Yeah.
Reality. Or
that's that same planet.
So like, is this chewing gum?
That's the planet we've seen a bunch of times, and it doesn't have a name yet. I think it's Planet
X. Yeah,
right.
Drives me nuts, but yeah.
And it has that nebula, and you have to know how to like get through it.
What?
And it's like,
it's very similar.
He got lost in there.
Yeah. Well,
maybe
that's Reith's.
There was a panel of him on the planet, and we've seen that planet before. But he's like, maybe I like to think that he made it.
It looks like he got lost in there. Oh no, it looks like the final panel is him like walking around and there being like, this is not a bad place to get stranded.
Yeah, that's the hope of. And I mean, you're totally going to find, they're going to find a skeleton when they get over there, right? Like,
I don't, or a very old Barnabas Vim.
I mean, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's only a couple decades ago. So
that's true. That's true.
60, 70, something like that. But, and time and they don't really play with that stuff. But,
but he still has an Echo Stone on him.
Right. And they think that like he's taking the Echo Stone back home. He thinks the levelers and the Echo Stones, everything comes from this planet and belongs on this planet and should stay here. Though it's, seemingly protected by that nebula, but we've seen a lot of people get through that.
Yeah.
Martian Row a couple times. And then like Phase 2, those like pirates, like they actually invented a path engine, and that's how they got through the nebula.
Right. It's the most upsetting thing about the High Republic novels is Martian Row has cheat codes to like everywhere in the galaxy.
Yeah. He's very
He's got a lineage of very awful people that were very well connected and did a lot of good research.
Yeah.
So that's like we think he went there. And then we enter Comac Vitus into the mix in issue 3. Always good Comac Vitus. Yep. And he tells a story, or they crack another holocron, and it's about Atticus Cole and Jadia Brink.
Atticus
Kale, sorry, you're right. Kale. You got it.
And Jadia Brink,
yeah. On the planet Barovia.
Yeah.
Okay, so and the Barovians are like obsessed with the Echo Stone, and their whole culture is sort of like has this whole like this whole mythology about the rods being sealed away, and
they love
and they get to one of the rods, and then
there's two sides, right? There's the one side who wants to use it, and the one side that doesn't want to use it.
Yes,
right. The prophets and the seers.
The prophets and the seers. There you go.
Yeah. And I love the idea that it's buried away, and so that's made a kind of a stalemate betwing the two sides, like an
it caused
easy
the civil
peace.
war. It's like it's lured to them, and it was hidden behind Ptolemite, like puzzles. Wall.
They love their puzzles. Yeah,
they do. Love the Ptolemites just made puzzles all the time.
I know. It feels like we're playing a game of it feels like Uncharted.
Just find them, get to the rod. And Atticus is like, I can't take it. It's very One Ring again. It's like, I can't, the power will corrupt me. Like, no one should wield this.
Yeah. And you see him kind of reach for it for a second.
Yeah.
But he really did kind of do a cool thing where he was like, all right, we're just going to he tried to crack it out but it exploded and there was a cave in and they got away. But he's like, maybe this is for the best.
Yeah. He's like, maybe no one should have this rod.
Yeah. And it turned out to solve the conflict between the seers and the prophets. And they were like, all right, let's get together.
I love it. It's a very Jedi, like it's the stories I love where the Jedi just come to a planet and have to solve something. Right. And it was like good reasoning. I remember reading this both times I read this, I was expecting something else to happen. Right. I was expecting it to go real bad and for them to Jedi to accidentally ruin it. Right. Or just do something. And so I really appreciative of no, they accidentally helped, not accidentally, but they kept their word. Like they were going to check it out. And if it was bad, they would take it away. They couldn't do that. So they accidentally buried it under a mountain.
Yeah. And then everyone was truthful the whole time. I was waiting for Comac to be like, listen, we got to take this for a thing and just, fudge the truth a little bit. But he's like, listen, I just need this thing. And I know.
So that's what's so fascinating about it is that then they're like, let's go get this rod. And Comac goes with them.
Yeah.
To go get it. And they fight some zombies or something.
Like stone robots.
Robots?
So that was the thing. So I thought they would just move rocks. They're like, we can't move the rocks. Wreath finds a fissure in the ground. And then my favorite panel in all of the High Republic happens. And they actually show a cutaway of the underground maze.
Yes.
That's
another thing. These books are incredible. These comics are incredible. High Republic Adventures.
And it just sort of shows you all the.
It's like a D&D maze of what the isometric
waterfalls
maze would look like. Yeah,
it's so cool.
It's so cool, and I love that. So they get through that, and yes, there are stone sentinels, which I feel like we've seen in Afra from time to time.
Right? But why are they there? I'm confused as to why they're there.
So protect
the stuff.
Yeah, the Ptolemites put them there. I'm not sure why they weren't there before.
So they're Ptolemite droids or something?
Well, because it's underground. So before...
Oh, they've got even further. Okay.
The vault was above ground, I thought. Right?
I think you're right.
Yeah. But then after the cave-in, it fell underground, and there just happened to be another artifact holster there. Right? And it fell in there, and that's this ancient ruin is. That's where it fell into, and then that's where you get into the other droids. So it was two kind of separate spaces.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, that makes sense. And then you get a couple of challenges, which is my favorite thing, right? They have the Cormac's trying to put together a puzzle while the other two are just destroying droids for hours. It seems like just hours, just destroying droids, or while they're waiting for him to finish it up.
But they cracked
they did, And then I love the mirror. The mirror one was
that was
so cool. Yeah, this idea of
Kyber mirror.
Kyber mirror is going to show you all your possible paths, and they said, Comac, you should do it. He's like, no, I don't want to see it.
I'm not in a place for that right now.
Comac has gone through an arc already. He's good now.
And just foists it on poor Wreath, and Wreath's like, yeah, I'll do it.
He's a boss.
And then he aced the test.
Ace test. I accept none of these.
Did you look at his other pass? There's one where he's victorious, holding up his shield. He inherited Solandra Show's light shield.
True. That's right.
Yep. there's one where he's just chilling in a chair, like Elzar Mann.
Yeah, and looks older, right? Looks much older.
Yeah, he's like an old man in like the council, which is like, oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And then there's another one where he's killing Aslan Rel.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Which
another one where he's holding a dead Jedi too, I think, or dying.
Yeah, and it's like unclear which Jedi it is.
Yeah,
and he's just like that
was a really cool scene.
I will be.
And the
I don't care.
Incredible.
Yeah, I will behave. Whatever the will of the Force.
Yeah, exactly. I trust. Yeah, I trust in the Force to guide me. I am Reath Silas, Jedi Knight, and my future path is not decided. I love that. It's a great moment. Yeah,
so cool.
He's a baller.
Yeah.
You know who would have loved him? Count Dooku.
Yeah,
Dooku would have loved that guy.
Yeah.
Little do listeners know we talked Count Dooku for 20 minutes.
Oh, did we not record the Dooku conversation? No, we didn't.
No, we didn't. I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
the Dooku corner.
Great. We were talking about a possible parallel, like a Infinity sort of concept of if Obi-Wan joined, believed Dooku and was like, oh, there's this like Dark Lord running the thing. Let's go fix that. And he actually goes with Count Dooku. And
Infinity just breaks off from Genosha.
Right. Yeah. They kill the Emperor and they make like a total utopia out of the galaxy and the Republic. That would be fun.
I love it.
That'd be amazing.
Should we talk dispatches? From the Occlusion Zone.
Well, I think I think we just need to mention that Reath Silas does finally obtain the rod.
Oh, he does get the rod. Yeah.
Right. And so this means that they could control levelers and force back the blight.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is wild. Exactly what
huge.
They did.
Huge.
Yeah. Which I mean, if you think about it, like in phase 1, they took care of the Drengir before they took on the Nihil, right? And I feel like similar in phase 3, like they're gonna first take care of the Nameless, and then it's gonna become the big last battle or clash with the Nameless or with the Nihil.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild, man. It's gonna, and then we get some crossover too, because I think, I'm thinking.
You're thinking about the next one.
But
I will be so happy when the Nameless are gone, and it's nothing against them. Like I think it's a good thing. But if I need to see another panel or read another chapter of a book of a Jedi being scared, which is good. Like I've seen it so many times. They go to that well so many times. I'm just like, you gotta kill them.
I'm starting to think that I have a very different idea of what a Jedi story is to kind of how the High Republic frames the Jedi. In that, like, I almost think a Jedi story is like a high adventure sort of swashbuckling epic where they do a bunch of stuff and they're without contact to the council for a while, and it's a big adventure. Essentially, it's not just like a little research mission. It's not hanging around the temple. It's not like this, that, and the other. But the comics are sort of exploring the processes around the Jedi and what they do. And the High Republic's very interested in that too, where it's just little like missions and things like that, where it's like, but like, I think, I've always thought cinematically, like a Jedi is used in a story as this sort of big, heroic, sword fighting hero in the ensemble.
And what we're doing right now.
And they have an epic adventure. And in this, we're getting a lot of like Jedi hanging in the library, like Jedi just like, like picking up after after the fallout of a battle, like they're in the rebel, like doing peacekeeping operations, like just standing around, research, like who are the Nile? They're trying to stop this threat. This threat's like unreachable because they're in this occlusion zone. They're trying to break through this storm wall, which we'll talk about, which is a perfect segue, I think, to dispatches from the occlusion zone, because it's like they're really trying to figure out this storm wall situation right now, and it's a lot of like analysis, and after huge losses essentially from horrific sort of like terrorist events that have happened.
I mean, it's part of it, right? Like this entire story is just Jedi on their back feet, right? And so you don't have the room for those stories. And this is not a slight against it. I'm enjoying the story of the High Republic, but I would also like to see, like, can we have a time when the Jedi were just like okay? Like they weren't in a war, they weren't in a battle, and like what did that look like? And I know from creatives and authors, it's like, well, there's not really any struggles there. But like here's
the whole point.
I always thought the purpose of a Jedi was that you see the enemy. There's like stakes established with some sort of enemy. After you establish the stakes with the enemy is a well-oiled machine that is presenting some sort of threat.
Yeah.
You just toss one Jedi at it. Yeah. It basically destroys the entire engine and like destroys the entire apparatus of the enemy. Like a Jedi is very effective as just a single unit, and then a master apprentice unit, that unit can bring down an entire armada. Like the way that they just do their sort of like, any sort of like, they kind of go in and they're like infiltrators, right? And they can basically like disarm or defang an entire threat before maybe they're dealt with a larger,
And my thought too is just like, I get this, that like, they want to always have this overarching giant war story, but can I interest you in 10 seasons of a television show and 250 episodes? It's called Star Trek, and literally Star Trek and the Next Generation, there is no giant issue going on. They encounter something that's big, but it's not like, other than a couple of like, 2-episode arcs, like Gene Roddenberry like preached, like there's peace, but things happen in peacetime still that need to be dealt with, right? And that there are things, and I would just love to see that story as well. Just like, can you show us some Jedi during like the good times and what they're doing and the adventures they're having and how they're keeping the universe or the galaxy good? Anyway.
It's a challenge, but I think we've got the best and brightest who want to make Star Wars right now. I think we could do it. I would love to see that too, Adam.
Yeah, and again, I'm really enjoing the High Republic. I don't want to make that come off as like,
I think there's actually a line from Reed Silas that says, "Now the real adventure begins," which is exciting, and they're gearing us up for the last part of Phase 3 in the end game here. It'll be interesting. I'm curious about release order. I haven't really checked it, but I assume the novel will come out first, and so we'll kind of know the story, and then they'll backfill like what happens in the comics. But I don't know how you sort of come to the satisfying conclusion. It would be kind of nice if like the comics push the ball forward, a little bit closer to the end zone, and then the like novel, takes it home.
It's so hard to do. I've never really seen anything like this in terms of having comics and books be tied into the same universe during the same time, because it's hard, because we talked about 4 comics that were great. Those 4 comics took a third of a year to come out, actually more, because I think that was actually because there were a lot of delays. I think it was actually half a year. Like, and a book comes out, and so it's weird to line those things up. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to do this. The last arc of the High Republic for Marvel just started last month with Fear of the Jedi, which I think is their last. I'm not sure how many issues that is. I have to check. It's probably like 10, but that takes you pretty close to the last book. But I don't know time wise. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not quite sure where everything's going. It seems to be like everything's leading up to like the big battle is like, it's because all these things are being told as like this is the end of the beginning. No, the beginning of the end. I can't remember. Either the beginning of the end. Yeah. So
I mean, it should culminate in one like massive battle, and like they'll all be part of it. And we've seen these before: Valo, Starlight Beacon, and then the first book on Hetzel.
Right.
We got these mega battles with it where they introduced all the characters and they all sort of Avenger in together. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how it's going to play out. But it'll be fun. But all right, we have another comic to talk about. This is Dispatches from the Occlusion Zone. And here we have it was teased as Elzar Mann and Avar Kriss. We know they are sort of leading this thing, the main charge of the end game here. They're now like co-generals, Elzar and Avar. But we're really focused on Elzar here, and it's kind of like an inverse of Empire Strikes Back, where Elzar is sending these like probe droids out into the Occlusion Zone to do
this is so cool. EX droids.
EX droids, which is established in Phase 2, is like that was the pioneer communication system. They actually just send droids through hyperspace or whatever. And so that's the conceit, is that Elzar is sending this out, and then we find where these droids are landing and who's receiving them, at least a couple of them, and what's going on there. So we start back on Iridu again. A lot of Iridu stuff.
Oh, that's Iridu. Yeah.
And 5A and Court.
Wait, we learn like again these High Republic adventures and comics. It's like we learned about pretty crucial lore about Iridu and like the Quintad and like
the Tarkin,
the ruling families essentially, and the Tarkins are one of these ruling families, and the whole like the idea of like the what is it, Bifrang city like being built on like some sort of like
a heating aqueduct. It was like it was their power plant that was made from lava was underneath.
No, but there's a mythological sort of story where it's like
about the dragon
or something. Yeah,
dragon,
it's very cool.
Dragon. Yeah,
a fire-breathing dragon, and they're like, that's problematic. But it's
for all you GMs out there, if you want to do any Iridu stuff, just you're gonna have to read some of these comics because it's got deep cut Iridu sort of lore here, and this is where the Tarkin family comes from, and we meet Severin Tarkin, in these comics, who I think is the sort of like one of the leading members in the Tarkin family right now, I guess politically.
Yeah, she's coming up because she conquered a Veermok.
Yes.
The name is Belinta, which is like a cute little name for this giant.
And it's gone missing. It's like her missing giant alien gorilla
Veermok.
Reptile thing. Yeah.
And it's very faithful. Big Belinta fan. And that's how they lure Belinta away, and that's how because they can't get a meeting, and they keep losing.
But the whole point is the Jedi are trying to see where the Tarkins and like
where
the aristocracy sort of sit with the war between the Jedi and the Nihil, the Republic and the Nihil.
Directly off the comics we were reading last week, right? Because where we left it, they were still uncertain where the Tarkins.
And then when we get down to like the whole lava power plant thing, it's like I think Severin's like, no, we hate the Nihil. Like they've always been, she says something that's like they've been horrible to our people.
Right. Well, they fractured their power plant, and it's a ticking time bomb now.
Yeah, they like blew it up.
Yeah. So that's a thing.
I was gonna say before we move on to more plot, like I just thinking about kind of what you're saying, Grant, about Iridu and all that stuff. It's just like I think Daniel Jose Alder is the best at creating worlds in a way. Like I just feel like this is the clearest. He's just spent so much time in Iridu. I feel like I understand it, and I understand.
I feel like he's able to get. I feel like Daniel Jose Alder can do the weird almost better than anyone.
Yeah,
Star Wars needs a degree of weirdness.
Yeah,
and I kind of like I hear other weird things that are invented, and it's like when Daniel Jose Alder invents something weird kind of aspect and named thing, I'm like that actually makes sense. It's actually awesome. Like I like that a lot.
Yeah. And remember, like he started off with the High Republic Adventures in Phase 1, and I don't have any names in front of me, but the started out with the story of like that planet that hated the Force, right? And again, we spent enough time there where like I felt like I really understand how this planet works, which I really appreciate. Like I love that world building that he does with this stuff, and just this idea of Iridu, and just like I love what he did in this comic of being surrounded by both the Nihil and the Tarkins basically in the city, in the lower city basically, and then seeing the tensions rising. Like there's a couple scenes of them just walking through the streets of just no one knows who they can trust, and just that feeling of very polarized place politically.
And we get more Iridu in the second issue. But this time
Beyond Reach by Alyssa Wong.
Okay.
Second issue.
Wong. And and this is more Drigget.
Well, it's about like the Nihil. So like the end of the first issue, they're like, I hope no one suspicious recovered that EX droid. And then it's like the next issue is like a Nihil, like recovering it.
Yeah,
of course.
Right.
And we kind of dig into the sort of the Nihil that are present on what Iridu. Is that where we are in the second issue?
Yeah, the Warden and his posse. But Drigget, who we know is connected to other characters. I forget his name. Gavi, right? We've heard Drigget mentioned a lot in the other comics and stuff, but then we get this backstory with this Jedi named Rue, who's left the Order.
Wait, Rue is OP.
Yeah,
Crash Ongwa and her crew, and then Rue,
and then
Rue is like. Wait, who is this Rue character?
Right, and I feel like we must have
some backstory to it, but I don't remember. Like, I remember. So Crash Angoa had her own like side story and it was kind of like her history, and she had some people she was working with, but I don't remember Rue at all. And I don't know, like they might have just Alyssa Wong might have just introduced this character and his backstory for this issue. But he forms an uneasy alliance with Drigget to let her speak her message to Chancellor So that hey, don't forget about us.
Don't forget about the Outer Rim, the outlying
Don't you
world.
forget about me and everyone else in the Outer Rim.
I have some background.
Don't you?
I have some background about Rue's appearances, which might explain a little bit why we're a little unclear. So, first showed up in the High Republic's Tales of Light and Life. Remember that? We read that book, which is like the collection of short stories.
Oh, okay.
It's good, but like it's kind of one of those random things. He was in the High Republic Crash Landing. That's the Crash story. That's standalone.
Yeah.
And then before he shows up in this, he was also in 2 short stories in the Star Wars Insider, which is something we haven't really been keeping up with.
That's probably what it was.
Go back. Yeah. And then
so anyways, he's like a guy with white hair, like pretty cool, like almost like smuggler, kind of a scoundrel attire.
Yeah.
And then he uses a lightsaber and the Force. And he uses the Force very well.
Yeah. He said he was a Jedi and left the Order, I think.
Yeah.
But he has a sick Nihil costume where he wears a helmet, and it's just like he looks OP.
Yeah, do you want to get some background? So he was at the destruction of Starlight Beacon. He and his master refused to come back after the Guardian protocols. His master got killed, so he left the Jedi Order.
So he's like a Jedi who's just a Ronin, essentially.
Yeah, basically stopped adhering to Jedi teachings, not caring whether he used light or dark side. So he kind of went that path that he would just use anything. But
he's kind of doing the right thing and trying to let Drigget or whatever their name is,
Drigget actually
this
probably
hollow
makes
message.
It's like Bridget, but it's 2 D's. I don't know.
And then and basically then he went ham on a couple of Nihil and a Nihil factory and killed them all. And that's when he kind of realized that's what he's kind of referring to here. Is I kind of went a little dark there.
He's kind of like Batman, like
but one that kills people.
Yeah, but he kills people. Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. And
issue 3, Baron Moon by Daniel Jose Elder.
Oh, nice.
Again.
I mean, who doesn't
Niv
love
Drendow? Adam, I peg this as your favorite character.
Yep.
Niv Drendow.
Niv Drendow Aprok.
He's like a scientist, a Nihil scientist.
Raised by
Baron Boulon like said was like his protege and like the next in line to be like the next arch scientist for the Nihil or something.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a cool character.
He reminds me of Werner von Braun. Like in this way of just like he is working for an evil organization.
Yeah.
Because that happens to be where he is in life, and he's a scientist, so he can't be like he's totally into science and doesn't really care about the politics. And this is not a good thing because also many nations
you don't just invent V2 rockets for anyone.
Exactly. But then the good guys realize, oh, you just really like science, so if we take you over here, you'll help our space program. Like you'll develop our entire space program.
I got like Brainiac vibes from him too, like DC sort of Brainiac. I was just like, I don't know. He was just a cool character overall. And them going down to Vrant Tarnum,
his home planet, and we get the Inspector Emmerich Kaftor. Jedi
Emmerich Kaftor is one of my favorite characters.
I love that character.
I love Emmerich Kaftor, and especially after these issues. Like I read the whole Emmerich Kaftor, like Shadow of the whatever it was called, Nameless or something. I don't know what it's called, but it was a great series,
it was like detective story.
But it wasn't until this issue that I think I was like, oh, I'm like in the Emmerich Kaftor, like is my favorite Jedi.
He's got a scientist side piece that's just like he's just like I do what I want.
And I love any story. It's like, I let you capture. I planned on you capturing me. Like it's great. I love that
Sherlock Holmes or dude, Vim Drendow Aprok. Though the good doctor does have an awesome ship, his like spider ship.
That spider, the crab ship thing. I think it was awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Then they go to decode the
Oh, right.
The writing of oh man, what's
Bulin, right?
Bulin, yeah. It's not just Bulin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. No,
it's Barnabas Vim, not Barnabas Vim.
It's. I think he's comparing notes with Aslan Rel and
Rell and someone else though.
There's no, but it was that like the wall is Baron Bolin's like wall of like knowledge, but the piece he was missing was, and they crack it. And if you're watching Prime Target, like I am right now, it's the exact same
just you.
Scene of the episode that just came out. It's like a couple of times he's looking at a wall of like nonsense, just like
trying to figure it out.
Of them.
Hey, listen, that's 2 episodes worth of material right there.
Yeah, and doing like science and like technology and figuring it out, and they figure it out.
That's funny. That's really funny. I like but I love the fact that the scientist in this is just like I appreciate the fact that he accepts, like, yes, I'm going to turn on my people. I'm going to go with you. I am going to be in jail or prison, but will you at least let me read the book when you're done with it? Like, I appreciate that he's so interested in that he's willing to like go to prison in order to get the answer to his question.
And so what was the question, right? Was it like how to tame the Nameless?
Yeah,
it's all the research about the Nameless, right?
It's all about Nameless. I think it's a little unclear, but I think it's basically to understand them deeply, right? To understand what makes them work, what makes them tick. I think,
or like where they came from and how the Ptolemites dealt with them, or something.
Yeah, it seems very in parallel to kind of what's going on in the Echoes of Fear.
So it's like that's yet another great boon for our heroes here as we enter the end game. Then
we get issue 4 encounter on Delna. Cavan Scott. So the authors are kind of changing up within dispatches.
It's fun. I love when they do that.
Which is pretty fun. This is the Ty Yorick issue.
I do. How do you guys feel about Ty Yorick? I love Ty Yorick.
Ty Yorick's great.
If that lightsaber ever comes out for sale, that's like instant purchase.
Who doesn't love a monster hunter?
Even like the tiara thing she wears or whatever that is, like I would buy that, just have it on a stand.
Right. This was also a acid trip.
The art on this
the art was out of control in this issue. This was the issue I think I picked up and I was like, whoa, this issue is like groundbreakingly different.
So the artist on this was one of the artists in issue 1 of Echoes of Fear, who did the
so it's the same artist.
Okay. These 2 issues, I think.
It's Vincenzo Riccardi is the person, because I noticed the name because in the first one, in issue 1 of Echoes of Fear, there were 2 artists, both with the first name Vincenzo, which was funny.
Right.
So like they're not. I was like, oh, they're no, that's not how names work. So just happened to be Vincenzo's. But that's the same. Well, I'm assuming that Vincenzo is the one who drew that part of that issue 1, my guess, because the art style is similar and I love it. It's very trippy.
Yeah, the colors, the purples and the reds and the blues. Yeah, it's pretty great. But it's good. Druin is fun. He's a fun heel.
Druin.
Yeah, KLO or Close, which she calls her droid.
Yep.
And they go back to Dalna, which is kind of another featured planet. This is where the Path of the Open Hand started, right? It was on Dalna in phase 2.
Wasn't there like a bombing or an attack on Dalna?
There was also that. There was
I believe you're right, Ben. Yeah.
There was a book where there was another mad scientist and they had a device that caused all their volcanoes to erupt at the same time, and it destroyed that planet. We've actually seen Dalna a bunch.
Yeah, a ton. And it's a
major planet in the region of the occlusion zone that I think the Republic's trying to break into.
Yeah, and so they very much hate that. And then we run into some characters from the Marvel main run.
Yep.
Tay Serik. So Ty Yorick meets Tay Serik.
Yep, that's easy to say.
And Tay Serik also from phase 2, and
now we got elderly Tay Serik, right? Like he was the youngin when we first met him.
He definitely has Ray Stevenson vibes. He has what's his name? Balin Skull vibes in this.
I love that moment.
Mechanical arm or his like gauntlet.
He has the Sith gauntlet, which I love. So, which was like a big thing in phase 2.
The Hand of Siberius.
There it's called.
Yes.
And so I think, Cabin Scott, master at this stuff. This is a very comic booky thing where you have two groups who don't know each other, who are both good guys, interact and get into a fight. It's a very comic booky thing. It's like one of the things where I just like, no, this is dumb. Why are they fighting? This was brilliant the way they set it up, because he has a dark side object. And so, of course, Tyurik's going to feel the dark side, see an ex-nihil, and just assume an attack. Like, it just totally makes sense why she would attack. And then, you know what solves it? A conversation. It's my favorite thing. I'm like, if people would just talk, they figure it out, and they do in this. It's just great,
right? But it was
that's actually the answer to a lot of issues in these stories. It's like the nihil are just like broken, disenfranchised people who are fighting because they were roped into the Nihil campaign because they were probably forced to, and their village was probably taken over or something. And it's like a lot of these people are probably, just innocent people,
right?
It's just a matter of being diplomatic and
I know
resolving the tensions.
Totally. I love it. I know what you're about to say, Ben. Yes, they were forced to talk because they were wrapped up by plants, but they still talked.
Yeah. Vila the Lonto plant mage.
Yep.
These stuff, I was reading it and I was like, yes, I love this. Put it in my veins. Oh, Vila, they're like, that's a Lonto plant mage.
Isn't it like she got separated from her dad, or dad died in the attack or something?
Got separated.
Separated.
The Nihil, I think, kidnapped him.
Nihil attack.
Yeah. Oh, but he's alive and they reconnect. Yeah, we got him in a different issue, and he is back on Coruscant, I think, helping them out. But yeah, they're all characters from the main run. I'm pretty sure from the Marvel run.
I believe so. Yep.
Comics. But they kind of have splintered off a little bit from some of the other like Jedi that were there.
These were very tasteful though, and like I really liked reading these, and they were just, I think, great compliments to both the novels and the main run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say we are a little behind on the Lorna D story, right? Because we saw
Lorna D pops up too. Yeah, and she just helps fight, which is cool. She just helps Tyurik fight.
Cool. That should be the next thing we do. Is
the Tempest Breaker audiobook. I think is probably going to explain a little bit of her.
Yes,
maybe we should maul through that next week.
I think I did listen to that.
There was two. There's two so far. There was. Yeah, this is the newer one.
Tempest Runner and Tempest Breaker.
Tempest Breaker.
We did do Tempest Runner, but we didn't do Tempest Breaker.
Yeah, Tempest Breaker just actually has been out for probably a month now, so we should start working on that.
Oh, it's been out for like 3 months, but yeah.
Actually, the Reign of the Empire books, like the Empire, came out.
As
well. Mask of Fear is out. The Alexander Freed book.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about that.
I think we should get on that because I can't wait to talk about that. Maybe as like a lead up to Andor.
I was going to say it's a perfect lead up to for Andor. Yeah.
I want to do that. I want to do a Rebels rewatch. But we should probably like listen to the audiobook.
I love the idea of a Rebels rewatch this late in
It's going to matter, dude. There's going to be callbacks in Andor, I swear. Like a ton of callbacks.
Really?
Well, yeah.
I think. Because they showed so much Lothal.
To me, that's like maybe Ahsoka season 2 lead up. It's like,
wow.
It's going to be Rebels season 6 for Ahsoka season 2.
I think this is going to be like Rebels season 6, honestly. Okay. But it's going to be a callback. It's going to be like really Rebels season 5, and what Ahsoka is Rebels season 6.
Yeah, not to do too much business on air, but it might be good to like back up 3 weeks before that comes out and do 1 week of Mask of Fear, 1 week of kind of Andor season 1 rewatch, retalk, and then maybe just a week before of just talking about what we think we're going to see, something like that. Anyway,
I love that.
It's going to be a lot.
I absolutely love that. Stay tuned. Lots planned.
This is a lot of homework for like the restart of a series, but it's going to be dope. All right. Any other comments, questions?
We get even more main run Marvel High Republic crossover at the very end, right? Because they run into Keeve
and Skier.
Keeve and Skier,
yeah. I just love it. Yep.
Elzar Mann was talking about. He was like, "Oh, the Marshal is. We need to do this for the Marshal." And I mean, Avar Kriss was the Marshal of Starlight Beacon, so I just assumed he was talking about Avar. No, he was talking about Keeve. She got a big promotion here and is working with. It's funny, like now she's kind of the master and is like watching over her.
Yeah, like Skier is like, Skier like has like we know can kind of rage out, and it feels like Kyiv has better control of her emotions and stuff, and
she's kind of taking care of her broken like master, and
it's interesting. Really, it's a cool dynamic, actually.
Yeah. It's cool that he's just like with her, but she's got the position of authority now, which is neat. And so Kyiv, obviously another Marvel comic main character, her and Skier, so that's a great crossover.
It is.
High Republic Adventures, great times,
right? I did not think we were going to get this much lore out of these two arcs at all.
And, I thought it'd be like incidental and just kind of
more lore than really even the like.
I didn't know what a Vermok was before all this. Now I do. I didn't know I needed it.
Yeah, you need a Vermok in your life. You need Belinta. Well, all right. Raise a glass to Belinta. We will talk to you next week on Cantina's Chronicles. Cantina Chronicles. Take two.